Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is the second of our ongoing Vesper community calls. Tonight I am joined by my colleagues, co-founders Jordan Kruger and Matthew Rozak.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Really excited to have the second community call. I was on the first, and I thank everyone again for the how much community engagement we've already had within just the first few weeks. I really appreciate all the feedback that you've provided. It really is something that we value, and as you'll see tonight, we already are incorporating a lot of the feedback we're receiving, and excited to share more updates with you, and also share some of the roadmap and where we're headed over the upcoming weeks.
Oh, Matthew, you're on mute.
It's like my first Zoom. Anyway, Happy New Year, everybody. Matt Rozak, co-founder of Vesper. Excited to have this community call. I wasn't on the first one, so it's great to be on here, listen to your questions, comments, and see how much of this we could roll into Vesper before we launch. Excited that we're a few weeks into the beta, and so far so great, and looking forward to giving more, collecting more for detail here on the call.
And for those who haven't met me, I also wasn't on the first call. I'm Zane Huffman. I am part of the strategy core team for Vesper. And to ditto what Jordan and Matt have said, really excited with the interest, the involvement so far. Couldn't be more pleased with how the beta has gone thus far, and excited for the things to come in the immediate weeks and the further road ahead. So before we get into it, a bit of housekeeping to give you guys an idea of how we are positioning these calls. These community Zoom calls are designed for our more passionate, in-tune community members, of course, our beta testers, and those who are a little more in tune with the goings of DeFi and want to be a little bit more up to speed with the lower level technicalities of what we're building at Vesper. This is kind of the most immediate way that you guys are able to get a sense of what we've been working on, what we're up to. And then from these calls, we'll just dilute the information into the Discord, and then more high level summaries will go into Medium. You'll also be able to see these calls on YouTube. And of course, we have ongoing updates with our social media channels, Telegram, and so on. So for those here who are passionate about Vesper, which should be all of you, stay tuned in Discord and stay tuned on these calls, because this is the best way to stay up to date. Our agenda tonight, first we're going to have a bit of reflection on the beta stats, what we've done from the start of beta till now. I'll lead that, and then I'll kick it over to Jordan, who will go over the feedback we've received, what we've gotten from the community, what we've already implemented, what we're working on. We'll discuss some ongoing changes we've made or that will be seen in the coming days in regards to fees, governance, and other ongoing updates to the platform. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we still need to do in order to transition from beta to the main launch, the roadblocks ahead, and what we need to check off in order to make that transition. And then we'll kick it off with some Q&A from the Discord, the questions that you guys have compiled in the days before this call. So we are 3 weeks now into beta. We launched on December 22nd. We're excited to see that we have pretty impressive interest from our users, 14 million total value locked across just under 500 users. Ethereum's our most popular pool. And we've been competing with other yield providers on Ethereum. Our pool has consistently been near or at the top of the market. That current strategy being taking out loans from Maker, depositing to Aave, and getting the DAI interest from there. Our USDC pool has been the best performing pool to date. We crossed 0.5% of returns just in these past 3 weeks, creeping up on 1% returns. So that's great. That's double-digit APY. Average deposit is around $30,000 per user. So there is a lot of heavy interest from the folks involved, and we're really excited to see what we've gotten with our beta so far, and excited to take this information into the final weeks and then the transition to Vesper 2.0 launch and beyond. So now I'm going to pass over to Jordan with our Vesper updates.
Thanks, Zane. So I think that we have really been taking the feedback that the community has provided to heart, and really wanting to continue to improve not just the platform, but also the user experience and the web application and website. So we have really been taking a look at the website and wanting to make some of the improvements that people really feel are important. So right now I want to take a look at the website and show you what some of these are. So just a quick look here. Thank you for those who have pointed out that the earning fee was a bit confusing. We did make some improvements with the just earning rate display. So that has been updated now on both the homepage as well as the web app. On the web app, we are continuously updating this and iterating here. So if we take a look at the web app, the biggest thing that I want to show is that if you look, let's, Zane, if you can navigate to the main Vesper dashboard. We now have a main Vesper dashboard that shows you, this is very recent, that you can see all of the pools on a single page. Also really important is that we are now being more granular in showing the pool data. So if you see that there are pool deposits, so you can see the individual pool deposits, as well as if you deposited yourself in more than one pool, you can see individual pool balances. This is also really important. We get a lot of questions about how to calculate the expected or estimated VSP for beta, and being able to see the individual pool data will help you estimate what you can expect for your VSP for the beta period. So you can take a look at these two stats here and get a better idea of what you can anticipate at the end of the beta period. The other thing, if we can go back to the last slide, to note with this is that we are, as I mentioned, we are continuing to update this. And so you will see new improvements every day, every few days to the website. User experience is very key for Vesper. We want to be able to provide a simple user experience for everybody. This is something that we take great pride in, and we've received really positive feedback from users thus far is in terms of our user experience. And then other improvements or updates to note. First, and I'll get into this more in a few minutes, would be with the withdrawal fee. So we have had some feedback in terms of the withdrawal fee with the fees, and I will explain that more in detail. Also, we have launched new V-Beta pools. And so the V-Beta pools, this is something that I do want to be very clear what we are discussing here is these pools are really meant to be the first step in live production. And so if we are thinking about the staircase going from test or development to full production, this is that first step up. And so you can think of these pools as junior pools. They aren't ready for the big leagues yet. And as such, this is the next phase in as far as testing. So these are live. They are on app.vesper.net. And these are available for you to participate in. These are strategies that are being tested. These are strategies that are going to be tested now on the app.vesper.net. And eventually, after they have made it through this phase, they will be available. They will graduate to the Vesper.finance and be ready for the V pool. So the V-Beta ETH, once it graduates, it will be ready for the V-ETH pool. These pools do not have VSP rewards. So don't see this as an opportunity to possibly earn more VSP rewards. This is simply for the first step in the testing towards full production.
And I think it's just a really important thing to highlight what Jordan mentioned on the way we test pools, the way we innovate, the way we go to market. Very different than a lot of other DeFi protocols and platforms that are testing in production or not thinking about a modulated launch approach. And I think it's important. It's important to do that to inspire innovation, to try, to test. And I think doing that on a risk-adjusted basis makes the whole platform better, stronger, safer from idea to a strategy, and then ultimately to a main launch. So I hope that inspires a lot more developers to test and try and push the envelope of what can be built and what can be initiated in that kind of a launch pathway.
Yeah, exactly right. We are really wanting to emulate the same that is done in other software development. We're wanting to make sure that everything that we do is the safest way to go from development to production. And so this is very similar to the development process that you see in Amazon to other big tech industries. And so this is not something new or novel in terms of how testing and production staircases work. So I think that this is where we are right now. These are recent updates. As I mentioned, I'm going to get into the withdrawal fees and what went into that in more detail, but also equally important is where we're headed and how we think about what's coming internally. We think about it in what's next, what's going to come in the near future, and then what we are excited about, what is very much in development, and where we are headed. So that's how we are going to be presenting this to you in terms of our development roadmap. And so as far as what's next, I think everybody on this call is probably very much aware. Next is main launch. The main launch is going to include the VSP token, as well as the VVSP pool. This is the revenue pool. And we are also going to have a Uniswap trading pair. And so all of these are very near future. And so we are just doing the final preparations. After that, shortly after the main launch, we are going to have the Vesper governance. And so we have updates that we're going to share in just a few minutes on the Vesper governance. And this is something that I'm very excited to share with you tonight. It'll be the first time that community is really hearing about the updates there. And so this is in the near term. And then after the governance, we're going to have new DeFi primitives that we are working on. These are in various stages of development right now. So we have multi-pool and directed pool. And so these are, as far as directed pool, this is something that we've really been sharing with you, and this is something that is very much already in development. And then also multi-pool is something that I think that we are going to be sharing more with you and why it is so important. So get ready for more content to come out on that in the near future. Matt, you're on mute again.
When we started Vesper, we actually built a lot of pools, and then we quickly distilled it down to 3 core pools of kind of where the concentrations of crypto was, and obviously ETH, Rep Bitcoin, and USDC bubbled up to the very top. And then, so instead of launching with lots of pools, we said let's launch with the 3 most kind of dense and highest volume and most well-known DeFi tokens. And we did that in a conservative strategy, such that it has the right kind of plumbing and mechanics around it. As you can tell, we built other pools, and then we have other innovations around that. And the initial set of pools, the primitive is pretty well understood: deposit ETH and then earn ETH. Some of the go forward strategies we have is programming your yield such that you deposit ETH and earn Chainlink. And there's obviously that strategy or programming that could go to n number of tokens and strategies. So that's the next kind of chapter of pools that we're going to be building and launching is on this directed side. And there's another example, not necessarily like maybe you obsess about owning more Chainlink but don't want to sell your ETH. And the other kind of variable or use case there is you have ETH, but you want USDC spending money that you earn. And so that's another kind of cool primitive in DeFi. It sounds relatively simple, but I think the DeFi primitive of programming your yield is super cool. And I think that's going to open up lots of other doors. So it's not only, get USDC or Chainlink, but you may want to have that go to top 10 crypto or a variety of other strategies. So I'm personally really excited about how that's going to go. The broader roadmap for Vesper, all the beyond the initial 3 launch pool, the initiation of those, we have a pretty deep set of ideas, and we're going to be articulating that more and more over the coming weeks and certainly over the coming months. You'll see additional pools coming online, but articulating that and getting feedback from the community is going to be really key, because we're going to kind of set those innovations on the table, and we'd love to get community feedback in terms of priority, chronology, and some of those things as we kind of unfold that roadmap.
So on to some of the updates that we have for you. One has already been implemented. This is the update with the withdrawal fee. So we have lowered the withdrawal fee down to 0.6% on the core pools, and then the beta pools that I was just talking about has been lowered to 0.3%. This is after a lot of community feedback. So we really do take the feedback that you've been providing to heart. This is something that right now, since we are in beta, this is something that we were able to do, but in the future, all of this is going to be managed through the Vesper governance. So in the future, the community is going to be proposing and voting for the fees. So if the community puts up a proposal, it's not going to be something where you discuss on Discord and then we are going to be the ones managing it. I think that is super important to make sure that everybody is aware of, is that this is very much a community project. And so that leads me to the next big update, which is the governance. This is something that I am very excited about because in the original governance that I believe that everybody has seen in the Git book, we had 4 phases where it was various degrees of decentralization over time. And I think that we would reach the decentralization, but not necessarily have it be as decentralized initially. Whereas now we are reaching more decentralization, still progressive decentralization sooner. And I'm very excited about that. So here, what we have is a model where we are going to be using the VVSP pool for our governance. So users will be depositing the VSP in the VVSP pool, and they will receive VVSP, and that is what they are going to be voting with. So we are going to be launching the governance module 2 to 6 months after we are launching the token, and the VVSP pool is where you are going to be voting. So this is something that will, once we launch the module, then the community will be able to participate right away in the governance. And this is all done through the VVSP pool. And so not only are you going to be able to earn a share of the revenue here, you're also going to be, you have the opportunity to vote. Key thing to also note here is that one of the big downfalls with governance in the early days for projects is that they don't have enough people voting, enough votes in order to really get stuff done. And so what will be happening in the early days is that the portion of the VSP is going to VSP from the reserves is going to be delegated to the Vesper team for voting purposes. And this is going to ensure that the housekeeping and governance conditions can be met in the early days. This is strictly for voting purposes only. And so the delegated stake will be delegated for voting, and anything that would be earned for in terms of revenue is going to go right back to the VVSP participants in the community. So nothing from the revenue is going to be taken from the VVSP participants. All that's going to go straight back to you. And the delegated stake is going to decrease quarterly over the course of the year. And so this is something that I am very excited about because the community is going to be participating very early in their governance, as well as they are going to be participating from the VVSP pool. So this is just an added bonus to the revenue pool. And as you can see here are the governance rules. Very similar. This is we are using the Governor Alpha module, which is from Compound, which is a tested governance module. And I think that this is one that is really state of the art in DeFi in terms of governance. And so finally, and as we think about what's coming next, we are doing a final round of audits. The new updates with governance has, we have a couple of things that need to be audited, and we are getting those back shortly. And we are estimating that the main launch, the VSP launch, is going to be around February 1st. And so really right now we are in the home stretch and just putting the final details on everything right now.
The only thing I'll add to this, because Jordan brought up before, was the fees, and we spend a lot of time on fees, and the way we start on fees and how we're evolving on fees. This is going to be a very community-driven path on where we kind of settle out on fees. And you look across the ecosystem on, traditionally 2 and 20 in terms of VC, private equity, hedge funds. And then in the DeFi world, you see everything from 2 and 20 again to 0.5 and 9.5. And we're trying to find a center of gravity there that is sensible to create an economic and a revenue model that every participant shares in. All the VSP holders participate in that, but also to do it in a smart way where in the early part there is a flywheel, there's a catalyst, and there is some momentum in that revenue generation. And as the pools get bigger, as the revenue continues to increase, again, there's more participation, more upside for participants to claim off the VVSP pool. So I think it's a good work in progress in terms of where we started and where we are, and we're going to continue to test and audit and ensure that that's in kind of the right range at the right time. So I just wanted to add that component to it, because we do think a lot about it, and you think about what's best practice or what's the where does it ultimately go to. And I think we're still part of that experiment in terms of what the economics will look like long term. But in terms of the mechanics and the machinery of how the underlying revenue model and the participation model of that, I think is super strong and really compelling in terms of how it works. So I think that's something that's going to continue to get refined over time. But I really like where we're at.
And with that, looking at some of the questions that we have, one of the questions that came up on Discord is actually asking about the revenue model, and is the revenue model unique relative to other DeFi platforms protocols? The revenue model is state of the art, incorporating lessons that have been learned from other projects. Our revenue model, it's one that really we have wanted to make it so that we have a sustainable platform. And we really have spent a lot of time developing something that we feel is going to be sustainable long term. And it is something, as we have mentioned a couple times now on this call, it is community controlled. So in terms of both the fee collector, and we have seen that we can have the fee reduction. Right now, this is something that we have been able to do with community feedback, but it is also it's modular and upgradable as well. And so that is one of the questions that we had on Discord, as we are starting to jump into some of the other questions that we've had. Scrolling through the list right now, another question related to fees is when or how often is the 15% platform fee collected? This fee is collected at the time of rebalance. So that is, I think, pretty straightforward. And if you have any questions about when this occurs, that is fairly well documented in the Gitbook now. I think that is it in terms of fee questions. Yep, that is all I am seeing right now. But obviously, if you do have any other questions in terms of fees, please feel free to post them on the Discord channel. So jumping over to other questions right now. So one of the questions that we have been asked a lot, and I will go ahead and address, is calculating the VSP rewards. So the VSP rewards for beta, this is based on the average balance during the beta period. So it is difficult for displaying this on the dashboard because it is for the entire beta period, but there are ways that you can estimate it based on what your pool balance is, as well as what the pool deposits are, and you can get a general idea. And I encourage everyone to try to estimate it, but like I said, this is purely an estimate. Other questions right now that are on the Discord. Is there a way to see the history of pool sizes inside of the Vesper pool, or inside of the Vesper pools? So this is something that is coming soon, and it is hopefully something that we are going to have available near or by the time of the token launch. So we are working on it. It is something that is, I think, very important to be able to see not just what is happening right now, but also a historical context as far as what's happened with the pools. So agree, and we are working on it. Other questions? Do you plan to insure the platform? And we are actively looking into insurance. Insurance is an important factor, and it is something that we are actively looking into what the best insurance options are. And we hope to have an update for everyone soon, and more details on that, so maybe on the on one of the next couple of calls. And then a question that we also get asked a lot is about the primary differentiators between Vesper and other platforms, other competitive DeFi platforms. And I think that this is one where it really comes down to one is our roadmap and what we are wanting to build, as far as not just what is what we currently have with the holding pools, but we also we talked about new DeFi primitives with the directed pools, and just our overall approach with the testing and how we take products from the development all the way up to full production. I think that it is something where there are other similar products that are out there today, but the entire approach that we take is very different, and we are wanting to really take a professionalized approach in everything that we are doing. We aren't testing a production. We are really trying to take an approach where we are being thoughtful, and also the products that we have coming up are different than what you may have seen before with other competitors.
Yeah, and the narrative on Vesper, it's a open source, community-driven DeFi platform for yield. And that's the current snapshot of Vesper. The roadmap and a lot of the other primitives that we will be launching will make us, when we would compare to a Yearn, a Harvest, and a few other aggregators or DeFi orchestration engines, I think that's going to be, in the medium long term, a component of Vesper, not just what defines Vesper as that singular function. So I think with the roadmap and a lot of the innovations we have, I think that's going to be a really big differentiator beyond we have a known team here. We, just as Jordan mentioned, in terms of audits, testing, documentation, a lot more professional approach from that standpoint. The way that we stripe our pools, conservative, aggressive, and that pool kind of risk measure. We're also thinking about ways to create measurements on the quality of liquidity and some stats around that. The roadmap, obviously, the revenue model, which we think is super unique and powerful in terms of as Vesper scales and seeing that scale out. So I think from several dimensions, the narrative for Vesper and the differentiators for Vesper are numerous, and I think the way we're approaching even governance is, we have the advantage, quite frankly, of seeing a lot of the projects over the summer and fall, and taking best in class there, and then evolving it even further with some of the kind of special sauce that Vesper has to bring. So that's the way we kind of think about how we position Vesper and kind of the differentiators.
And finally, it looks like we have a last question from Discord. If main launch is around February 1st, does this mean that beta lasts until then, or will the beta period end after 4 weeks like originally estimated? The beta period is going to last up until main launch. So we are going to continue the beta period. There's not going to be a lapse between beta and main launch. So I think that wraps it up for tonight. Really appreciate everybody's input and all of the questions. We really are enjoying everyone's input and also enjoying these calls. So thank you everyone for coming out and joining us tonight.
Thanks everybody.